Of all the Pokemon in Gen 2, Gligar was arguably the Pokemon that got the worst treatment from the devs. Not only does it basically look like it might be a Zubat clone for Gen 2, but they also decided to give it no same type attacking moves via level up. You could get Wing Attack via breeding, but otherwise its best typing, the ground type, basically got no same type moves on this Pokemon, which has led tons and tons of people to lament the fact that this Pokemon could have been good if only it actually had some legit moves. And clearly even Game Freak realized that they must have made a mistake with this one, because when they made Pokemon Stadium 2, they made the Pokemon that you get for beating the entire game as your prize, Earthquake Gligar, giving it access to Earthquake, Wing Attack, Counter, and Poison Sting as its starting moveset. And with that, they presented the possibility of actually playing an entire game of Pokemon Gold, Silver, or Crystal with a Gligar as it should have been. But the question is, how good would it actually be with this moveset? Gligar has a few good and bad things going for it. On the good end, it has a really good defense stat, decent speed, and is in the medium-slow level up group. On the other hand, it has basically no special attack, and its attack and special defense and HP are all kind of middling, giving it only a 430 base stat total. But on the good side again, it does get access to moves like Slash via level up, Harden to boost its defense even more, and Guillotine could be a strategy in the late game, and it overall has decent move coverage with its TM Learn set with things like Strength, Headbutt, Sludge Bomb, and of course Fury Cutter. The issue is just there are no same type moves on this moveset, but by correcting that, we may actually prove that Gligar could have been a really good Pokemon for a solo run, but will adding on two of its best same type moves take this Pokemon from being kind of meh to being a world beater in Gen 2? There's only one way to find out, so let's get into it. So as we step into Professor Elm's lab today, he's going to apologize for years of poor treatment of this Pokemon, and he's going to give us Gligar as it always was meant to be. We're going to pick it up in the Chikorita Ball. That's going to put us up against the Totodile team, which is the only rival that has super effective moves against this Pokemon. So I think this will be the hardest to go up against, but we'll see if that actually works out or not. For now, we can just go ahead and check the legendary Quakegar coming in with its starting moveset of Earthquake, Poison Sting, Wing Attack, and Counter. And after a quick heal just to get our PP corrected, we are ready to start this challenge. And honestly, Counter, we saw in the Lucky Punch Chansey run, can actually be incredibly overpowered in Gen 2. There are a lot of physical moves being used against us, so who knows? This could actually be a really OP set to start the game with. Now, Wing Attack and Counter are typically available to Gligar as egg moves. Earthquake is the only move that is completely inaccessible to this Pokemon outside of Pokemon Stadium 2, and it is of course the move that I think is going to make the biggest impact on this run. Still, in the late game, when we get to Lance, we're not going to be able to use it because he's just a flying type trainer, so we're going to have to find other ways to get through certain key opponents as we go through the game. And that's where I'm hoping that Wing Attack with the same type attack bonus helps us out a little bit. Maybe Slash helps us out a little bit in those spots, but otherwise it's hard to see what we could actually use in those really tough battles. For now though, we have to take on rival number 1, and I think the best strategy is just to go Earthquake, and the first Earthquake does over half, so that's just a 2-hit KO on that very first Pokemon. Now we could learn Sand Attack here, but I'm just going to skip this move. I'd rather just keep all my attacking moves for now and just see if we can manage to get through the game without going for those kind of cheesy accuracy strats. But now for our rival in this one, I think we need to name our rival Game Freak. Of course, there aren't enough characters, so we're going to name him GM Freak, but definitely we need to give some disrespect to the developers for being so mean to poor little Gligar. Now, I will be running this as a standard solo run, so in general, I'm going to be playing with wild Pokemon off. Basically, I only turn them on right here in order to catch myself a Sentret, and this Sentret actually refuses to get in the ball. 5 Pokeballs completely used up, and we never caught our Sentret. So we're going to have to go actually buy Pokeballs in this one if we're going to be able to progress, proving yet again that Game Freak really does hate Gligar. Like, usually you can catch a Sentret easily with the 5 Pokeballs that you're given at the start of the game, but here we actually used 8 just to be able to catch 1 Pokemon. Still, with that done, we can finally make our way up north towards Violet, and let's just see how our Gligar goes. Of course, this first gym being the flying gym is actually kind of bad for our Gligar, given that we can't use Earthquake, but I think that Wing Attack plus Counter will be enough to get us through this part. So let's just see how it actually goes here. Starting off with Honest Abe, I think the strategy might be counter strats. So as he leads off with his level 9 Spearow, I'm going to go counter, and we can see it's doing massive damage. So after he hits us 3 times, we can just guaranteed knock him out, and he never gets close to actually taking Gligar down. With that, we should have an easy time against Rod, so we can make our way straight to Falkner. And as we come into the Falkner fight, we can see one of the major advantages of Gligar being in that medium slow level up group. It's the fastest level up group at the start of the game. We're already nearly at level 10. We will level up on the first Pidgey in this fight. So let's just see how Falkner actually goes. So Falkner attempt number 1, he leads off with the Pidgey. I'm just going to wing attack here. It's an easy 2-hit KO, and he only tackles, so nothing to worry about there. Now we get to level 10 as the Pidgeotto comes out, and since we are running on max DVs in this one, we are faster than the Pidgeotto by quite a bit. It goes Gust and does significant damage, but just 2 wing attacks takes down the Pidgeotto, and we easily get through Falkner on the first attempt, and just like that, we're ready to move on in the game. It's important to note that because Falkner is the flying type gym leader, he actually gives a boost to flying type moves with his badge. So wing attack is now relatively stronger and should just completely destroy Bugsy in the next section. So I think this is going to be an absolute cakewalk getting through the second gym. Let's just see if we can get down there and one-shot at least the randos inside of Bugsy's gym, and maybe Scyther's a 2-hitter? I'm not sure. Now, just by appearance, I always thought that Gligar was a flying poison type because that's just what it looks like. The flying ground type, though, is really interesting, given that we do have some 4 times weaknesses going on here. We don't really want to see ice type moves. Price could actually be hard in this one as we get into the late game. We're just going to have to find out if that is the case or not. For now, though, we can come into the Slowpoke well after Kurt just kind of, stumbles at the entrance. And we're just one-shotting here against the first trader's Rattatas with Earthquake. And between the Wing Attack and Earthquake, I honestly don't expect to have any issue down here. We just one-shot Pokemon at this point because our moves are so incredibly strong. And here I am going to take the opportunity to learn the move Harden over Poison Sting. I don't think Poison Sting's actually that valuable here. And I think we might want to have Harden later on when we get to Whitney. It could be a strategy for making it so that the rollout doesn't do as much damage to us. And with no difficulty at all, we get to Jamesy Proton. We one-shot everything to this point, and Earthquake just destroys his coughing. So we've completely destroyed the Slowpoke well, no issues at all, and suddenly Kurt's like, oh, I'm all better now. Clearly, I just had to see how good Gligar actually is in this fight. But with that being done, we have a couple options. We could go fight the rival. We can go to Bugsy's gym. I'm going to go to Bugsy's gym first, just because I expect our wing attack completely destroys everything. But let's just see how good it actually is. So it's time for our first attempt at Bugsy. Let's see how this goes. So Bugsy attempt number 1, he leads off, of course, with the Metapod. I'm just going to put Wing Attack in the top slot here. We one-shot there with a crit and get to level 16. Scyther comes out next, goes Quick Attack. I don't think we need to mess around though. Just 2 Wing Attacks knocks that Pokemon out, and that gets us to level 17 as the Kakuna comes out and gets completely destroyed. So yeah, with Earthquake and Wing Attack, Gligar is kind of OP in the early game. Granted, I already expected this Pokemon to get through based on the Minimum Battles series, but just seeing how completely overpowered it is kind of cool to see, since this Pokemon was distributed at level 5. But now we have to take on our rival. This is the first time we're facing super effective damage with his Ace, so let's see how this goes. First up for the Ghastly, obviously Earthquake just one-shots there. Out comes the Croconaw, and Earthquake is our strongest move. We hit it, it does about half, and Water Gun does about a third to us, but we simply knock it out the next turn. We get to level 18 as Zubat comes out. Time for the Wing Attack, and it's a one-hit KO. So that entire fight was yet again a joke. Just a 2-hit KO on the Croconaw, and everything else gets destroyed super easy. So Gligar is just cruising through the early game. I'm really wondering how it's going to do when we get to the mid game, but first we have to get through Whitney, and the fact that we are a flying type means that we're at least going to be neutrally affected by the rollouts. So we're going to have to get a good range there, I think, to get through. Still, who knows? Maybe we add on Headbutt or something, and that's the strategy to try to get a flinch. For now, though, I'm going to try to go in with my moveset as it is, since technically we could counter a built-up rollout and just destroy her that way. Now, one thing that we probably will not be getting in this is Soft Sand. We'll only be able to get that if we start taking optional battles. As usual, I'm going to stay on minimal battles as far as I can until it's completely obvious that I need more battles in order to progress in the game, which I honestly think is going to be quite a while with this Gligar. Now, admittedly, I'm probably glazing Gligar a little bit based on the fact that I just did that absolutely horrendous run with the Berserk Gene Mewtwo. You can check that out linked in the description. It's just really nice to actually have one-hit KOs and actually hit everything rather than hitting yourself every 2 seconds. So who knows, I may be in a situation right now where I feel like taking a bunch of resets in a tough battle because what the heck, it's better than the Berserk Gene Mewtwo. But now we at least have to test our ranges out against Whitney. Let's just see how far we actually get with no resets on this Pokemon. So now we could learn Quick Attack as we're getting ready to go into this fight, but I'm gonna skip this move. We're already fast enough as it is, and honestly, we can just get better normal type moves. So I think Quick Attack has no value on this Pokemon's moveset. Tell me if you think that's a mistake in the comments down below, but for now, I'm gonna take my first attempt against Whitney. This is definitely the toughest battle so far. Let's see if we get it to go. So Whitney attempt number 1. On the Clefairy, I think we just go Earthquake, and we get the one-hit KO. That brings out Miltank, and it goes Attract. It is smart enough to use a pretty broken move, and I'm just going Earthquake here. We are infatuated, and we just keep having turns where we can't hit, but if we land one more Earthquake, we do in fact win on the first attempt and get to level 21. Whitney tried to cheese, and it still didn't work on our Gligar. And with that, we're ready to move on to the Morty section, and I expect this to be insanely easy. As long as we can get through the rival, there's no reason why we won't get through Morty with the Stab Earthquake. It's by far and away the best move that we've ever had against Morty on this channel, I think, since those ghosts do have relatively low defense, and Levitate does not exist in this generation. But now we need to discuss something that I think is actually really important. Am I the only person who thought that this Pokemon was originally supposed to be a poison type? Obviously, it has the appearance, but it's also the fact that it starts the game with Poison Sting, and none of its moves have anything to do with its stab typings. Like, I get that in Gen 2 they were experimenting with different type combinations, you know, the water, ground, you know, Quagsire, etc., in order to just, you know, throw some things at you that you wouldn't have expected as a Gen 1 player coming to Gen 2. But the ground flying type really just seems kind of bizarre to me, given the fact that they didn't give this Pokemon any relevant moves. Still, that is pretty typical of early gens of Pokemon, I guess. So there is a reasonable argument to be made that Game Freak was just being Game Freak and not having any idea what they were actually doing back in these early generations. It just seems really sad to me though, given the fact that otherwise, Gligar is like a fan favorite Pokemon. I think tons of people love this little bat-looking thing that somehow is a ground type. Look how happy he is just dancing up there in the top left. Anyway, I'm just gonna quickly make my way through the Kimono Girls before we have to go and fight against our rival. I think these are all just gonna be super easy battles, but I'll comment if any are actually difficult. Of course, the only potential challenge here is the Vaporeon. We do well over 80% damage to it with the first hit though. We can just knock it out on the next turn with basically anything. We're to level 24 as we go into the rival number 3 fight, and we're already faster than his entire team. In fact, within a couple levels, we're going to be faster than the Gengar on Morty's team. And at that point, I just don't see us having any major issues in this section. But let's find out. Maybe, just maybe, we run into an issue on that Croconaw here. I think it's pretty unlikely though. So Rival 3 attempt number 1, he leads off with Haunter, but Earthquake is the perfect answer to that Pokemon. Out comes the Croconaw. Let's see the range with Earthquake here. Once again, it looks like a 2-hit KO, so we completely destroy it. Zubat comes out next, the Pokemon that I thought this was related to when I first saw it, and Wing Attack completely destroys it in a single hit as we get to level 25. Now Earthquake takes down the Magnemite, and just like that, we have defeated the rival in the Burned Tower, and we can come see the legendary beasts of Johto, and they're gonna run away in shock at just how incredibly powerful this Gligar is. Like I'm just saying, there are very few Pokemon that could scare away these legendaries, but Gligar is definitely looking like one of them at this point, because outside of Suicune, who wants to stick around and fight the Earthquake-loving Gligar here? Still, we'll see if we ever run into any of those. Probably not. For now, we'll simply make our way through to Morty, where we don't even need to go Earthquake on the Ghastlies. Wing Attack is more than enough to just completely destroy these Pokemon, and we're already faster than literally everything in this gym. So this should be a cakewalk, but let's see how Morty actually goes. So all the way at level 27, we can see that we have 69 speed, which is the perfect amount of speed to completely destroy Morty. So I'm just interested to see if we one-shot the Gengar. First attempt against Morty, of course, we're just going to Earthquake on the first Ghastly. That's a one-hitter. Gengar comes out second. We go Earthquake and destroy it in a single hit. And with that, these two Haunters have nothing that they can possibly do, as our Gligar just completely destroys them. Now, we could learn Feint Attack, but Feint Attack as a Dark-type move is special. We have very low special attack. I see no reason to learn that. So we're simply going to skip it and continue to just destroy the final Haunter. And with that, we have completely destroyed 4 gyms, still with no resets, no optional battles, no need to learn TMs, nothing. Earthquake Gligar is just that good. So now with Morty done, we have to decide how to route, and I'm actually going to try to take on Jasmine first in this one. It's a very rare case where I think Jasmine is the easiest of the next 3 gym leaders. Consider, of course, that Chuck has his ace, the Poliwrath, that knows Surf, a strong, super effective move against this Pokemon. And then Price is the Ice-type gym leader, and for once, he's actually going to be 4 times super effective, meaning that his moves could actually do reasonable damage. Jasmine, on the other hand, is weak against Earthquake with all of her Pokemon, so in theory at least, she's the easiest one to get through. So I'm at least going to test this out, since I know I've got the speed advantage and I've got the type advantage in the fight. So as long as we can actually get it to go, this might not actually be that difficult. Now you'll notice I have 1 reset that was simply due to running into an optional trainer, and I decided to reset there because I want to stay on minimum battles as long as possible, because I'm honestly interested to find out if it's possible to beat the game on minimum battles within reason with this Pokemon when you just simply give it access to Earthquake and Wing Attack from the start of the game. Like I said, there could be spots where that counter actually is a legit move. For now, I'm just going to come in and fight the randos inside of Chuck's gym though, because I think these fights are going to be pretty easy given that we have access to Wing Attack. Here against the Hitmonlee, it is a 1-hit KO. The second Black Belt bro comes immediately after that with Hitmonchan, thinking he's going to do something with that Ice Punch, but no, he actually goes Fire Punch when he survives on 1 HP. Still, easy victory. We get through just fine. We get to level 30 and we're ready to just take on these last couple randos before I go back and take on Jasmine. And after taking out all of those random trainers, I am just going to backtrack out. Normally I would be like, let's just try Chuck one time, but I'm really interested to see how long we can keep this unbeaten streak going. So I'm going to go to the Lake of Rage and then the Rocket Hideout, because I expect to just get a ton of easy victories there, and it will minimize the chances that we get a reset on Jasmine. Plus we can get access to Sludge Bomb after completing this section, so we'll get yet another move that is strong and physical that we could use in a key spot. spot. We also get access to Detect, which could be a strategy in the right situation, but let's see if our current moveset is enough. Now, I did take one reset here because I failed to catch the red Gyarados and it knocked itself out in confusion. Yet again, I don't really consider that a legit reset since it's not a reset in battle, so you can basically count those 2 resets that are showing on the overlay right now off, as we are now ready to make our way to the Rocket hideout. I expect everything in here to just be super easy, so let's get straight to the end of this section. And sure enough, we make it to the end of this section with no difficulty. Everything's been a one-hit KO up to this point. We're all the way up to level 33 as we get into the fight against the last executive. Earthquake one-shots against the Arbok, easy victory there. Murkrow comes out next. We go Wing Attack and just miss getting the one-hitter. It's a 2-hit KO, but we can just stick with Wing Attack on Gloom, scoring another easy victory as we completely destroyed the Team Rocket. Now, we need to take a quick moment to just look at the fact that the sprite for Gligar in the party menu is like the same as a lot of bug Pokemon. So is this actually supposed to be a bug type? Maybe it was a poison bug originally and then they decided to change it for some reason. That's just a theory anyway, so let's move on in the game. We'll grab the Sludge Bomb TM, though there's no reason to learn it immediately here. We have to wait until we actually have something that is weak against poison to even think about that move, or maybe a situation where we really do need a status on an opponent. For now though, it's not really going to help us against either of these next 2 gym leaders. We're just going to head back down to Jasmine at this point and see if she's possible to beat at our current level. So Jasmine, attempt number 1 here. She leads off with the Magnemite, of course. We go Earthquake and just destroy the first one. Earthquake destroys the second Magnemite as we get to level 34, and that brings out the Steelix. I'm going Earthquake turn 1. We did about a third there, and then we get a defense drop. I'm actually going to go for counter here, as it does massive damage to me. I just knock it out the next turn with the counter, so Jasmine never stood a chance. A couple Earthquakes definitely would have gotten the job done there too, but she would have had the chance to Hyper Potion. Going for the counter strat, on the other hand, guarantees that she doesn't get to do any of that. She just gets completely destroyed. And with Jasmine out of the way, now I think the best strategy is to go down and try to take on Chuck. He only has 2 Pokemon. They are weak to Wing Attack, and only one of those Pokemon is using a super effective move, so I just think this is the best play if we're going to progress on minimum battles. But let's see if it's enough in this first attempt against Chucky Boy. He leads off, of course, with Primeape. I'm going for the Wing Attack, and it gets the 1-hit KO. That brings out Poliwrath. We outspeed in Wing Attack. It does about 75%, and then it goes Mind Reader, giving us the free victory as we get to level 35. So Chuck just didn't even try to beat us there. He was like, yeah, sure. You're running a Gligar. There's no way I could beat you. This Pokemon's obviously way too powerful. And with Chuck done, there's nothing to do except run on back to Mahogany and take on Price. Now, for some reason, when I fight Chuck, I get an optional battle here. That's just an issue in the overlay. We're still running on no optional battles in this entire run as we come into the Ice Gym. This could be the spot where we actually do have to take optional battles because this fight just proves impossible. But let's get into it and find out. So Price, attempt number 1, I'm going to go for Earthquake on the first seal. It gets the 1-hit KO at least with a crit. Dugong is out next. We Earthquake, doing well over half. Aurora Beam does massive damage though. We still manage to get through, and we're to the Piloswine, but if Blizzard hits, we're definitely dead. We do over half here, but then Blizzard finally ends our streak of being unbeaten. We have to take our first reset. Still, we can clearly see that a single critical hit will get us through this fight, so I'm going to reset for that level of luck. Next attempt, we crit the Dugong, giving us the 1-hit KO, but it might not matter. If Blizzard hits, we might just be dead here, so I'm really hoping that we get a Blizzard miss. because yeah, sure enough, Blizzard from full health still is a one-hit KO on us. So clearly Gligar heard our instruction to get a critical hit, but got it at the wrong time, and that is the problem when you're running a Pokemon that's kind of marginal in these situations. Still, we also have a 30% chance for Price to just miss Blizzard, and that could be all that we actually need to get this one to go. Fourth attempt, we actually get another critical hit on the Dugong, back to Piloswine, and it just seems to be hitting every single Blizzard, but once we get one where it doesn't, I'm sure this is going to be a victory. So after quite a few attempts, this doesn't seem to be working, but there is one strategy I want to try, which is to go Iron Tail here. We can forget Harden to learn Iron Tail, just because I still think that there could be spots where counter is really useful. So this is what I'm going to go for. Let's just see if this actually gives us some sort of advantage. So for the first seal, we'll just stick with the Earthquake, but now we could try Iron Tail on the Dugong. Of course, because it's not a same type move, it's not doing as much damage. So Earthquake is still the play, and this time we finally get a miss from Piloswine on the 10th attempt, allowing us to get the victory. Now, of course, I wasn't paying attention to the fact that Iron Tail is only neutrally effective there against the Dugong, whereas it's super effective against the final Piloswine. So against Piloswine, Iron Tail would have been the play. Against Dugong, honestly, we're just better off going with the Earthquake because of the same type attack bonus. So a bit of an inaccuracy there, but we do manage to get the victory on that last attempt. And it's worth noting that given the ranges that we were getting, it's not guaranteed that we were going to one-shot there with the Iron Tail. I wanted to try it on the Piloswine, but just ended up using Earthquake instead there. But with that done, it's time for the radio tower. I'm actually just going to make my way over to Blackthorn first, just so that I can fly straight here afterwards, and I can also get access to a PP up. But now I expect this rocket section to be just insanely easy, so we'll come back after this part is done, and hopefully we just have a bunch more levels. Now after the level up, we can learn Slash, and this is where I'm finally going to forget Counter. We have a typing that causes most opponents to want to use special moves against us, plus we have really high physical defense and lower special defense, so Counter doesn't do quite as much for us as we would probably like. So I think Slash is the way to go from here on out. And as we make it to the executive at the top of the first part of the radio tower, sometimes he can be trolly with these coughings using smoke screen and self-destruct, but here there's nothing to worry about. When we have Earthquake, we're just going to one-shot his entire team with our same type move. And Gligar, outside of the single battle against Price, has basically continued its utter domination of Gen 2. But with that done, it is time to get into the basement and try our hand at rival number 4, who has a Feraligatr now. Still isn't rocking any really good water type moves though, so I think this is going to be pretty easy. Let's just find out. So rival 4, attempt number 1, wing attack on Golbat does about half and we get confused, but we knock it out the next turn. That brings out the Feraligatr. We hit the Earthquake, again doing about half. Water Gun doesn't do that much, and in spite of confusion, we hit twice, knocking out that Pokemon. That brings out Sneasel, that I always think looks like a flying type Pokemon, but of course it isn't, so we can actually just go Earthquake here and destroy it in a single hit. Magnemite gets more of the same. We get to level 40 as the Haunter comes out to get completely destroyed, and we have beaten the rival with no difficulty whatsoever. Even when he tried to cheese with the confusion, it just never stood a chance. And now with this whole section done, we're ready to just get to the last part of this radio tower quest, and I think we've got all the moves that we need to get through really easily, so I expect to at least get to the final executive with no resets here. Let's just see how it actually goes though. Who knows, maybe one of these trainers does something random that actually results in a loss, but I honestly highly doubt it. And after completely destroying all of the other rockets, it's time for the final boss, the executive who's sitting here with his doggy dogs. It's time for Snoop Dogg himself at the top. We're gonna go for Earthquake on the Houndour and get the easy one-hit KO. Coughing also gets Earthquaked and gets destroyed. That brings out Houndoom, and Earthquake just makes that such an easy fight. We we level up. We could learn Screech here. I'm actually not going to learn this move. I don't think we need it for anything. Like, what are we really going to set up one turn to cut his defense in half and then, you know, like what, one shot it the next turn? We may as well just go for 2 hits at that point, unless we're really struggling with PP at some point. I just see no reason to ever have Screech on our moveset. But now with that whole rocket section done, we're finally ready to get into Claire's gym, where I'm very interested to see how much damage we actually do with Earthquake against the dragons here. Fortunately, none of them are Dragonites, so they can't fly. That should make these pretty easy fights, but let's find out if that's actually the case. Now, one cause for alarm is that we did not one-shot the last Dragonair before we get to Claire herself. So I'm going to pop out and heal really quickly, but this makes me a little bit nervous that maybe, just maybe, the Dragonairs could be a problem in this one, especially since a couple of them are using super effective moves here. Still, we have to test this out and see, so let's try the first attempt at Claire. She leads off with Dragonair number 1 that knows Surf here. I'm going to go Earthquake, and it does not quite get the one-hitter there. It survives with 5 HP. So we knock it out the next turn. That brings out Dragonair number 2. Earthquake here does get the one-hit KO, so this might be a range. Out next is the Kingdra. Now, what I'm interested to see here is if we can get a crit that one-shots Kingdra. If we can, then this may be perfectly fine. In this case, we didn't get that range and we simply go down, but still, we did about half there, so it looks like a critical hit will get the victory here. So back to Kingdra on the next attempt. We get the critical hit and it just barely survives on 3 HP. That could be a range. That could have been the worst possible damage roll for all I know. So we still have to reset on this one because it might be a situation where we're just getting bad ranges on a couple of Pokemon. This time we one-shot the first Dragonair. We one-shot the second Dragonair, so we get to Kingdra on full health. Earthquake again does about half. It goes for Smoke Screen, apparently because at full health it's not guaranteed to one-hit KO us. That allows us to get through on full HP, and this last Dragonair only knows Thunderbolt as its special move, which can't damage us, so it's basically using Dragon Breath or Slam here, and we just Earthquake in one-shot. So there is a range here with this Pokemon where we can one-shot all 3 of the Dragonairs, and then we just need good luck on the Kingdra, and apparently it won't one-shot there since it went for the Smoke Screen. That's what I've learned about the AI in this version, is that if they have the guaranteed one-hit KO, they just go for it. But when they don't, that's when they start messing around with some status moves and things like that. Very, very interesting. So it may be that we were just getting a really low roll when we were failing to one-hit KO the first Dragonair those first couple times, which could mean that that's actually a more consistent fight than what it appeared to be based on the number of resets we took. Still, we got it like in 4 attempts there, so it wasn't like we were resetting for a long time. It was more consistent than fighting against Price. And as we tell the old guys about how easily we beat Claire, they're going to come in here and chastise her for trying not to give us a badge in this one. They're like, come on, this guy's running a Gligar. It's the best Pokemon in the game. And we're about to go prove it by taking on the Pokemon League. And if we can manage somehow to get through the league on minimum battles, that's just going to be absolutely insane. Honestly, I expect that Lance could be the wall here though, given the fact that he is flying type. So we're not going to be able to use our Earthquake in that fight. And on top of that, he's going to be using a lot of super effective moves there. I believe he's got Blizzard on some of those Dragonites, and that could spell the end of this Pokemon. And after just a couple of resets to get through that Spinner Girl at the exit of the cave from Tojo Falls, we are ready to move on. But of course, before we can actually take on the league, we have to beat rival number 5, and he does have his full team. So in theory, he could be a challenge for us. We're just going to have to see if we can manage to get through easily or not. And as we reach the point where you normally would be able to get the TM for Earthquake, I'm going to pick it up just to throw it on the ground in disgust over the fact that we're not able to actually learn this move, only to find that, yeah, in Gen 2, you actually can't throw TMs away. But that's all right. We'll take out our frustration on the rival here. Let's just see how this goes. Now, rival 5 leads off with Sneasel, of course. I'm just just going to Earthquake on this Pokemon and get the easy one-hit KO. Feraligatr is out next. We go Earthquake. It does about half. He's still rocking Water Gun at this point, but it's not like Razor Leaf would be doing that much more as a neutrally effective move, so we'll simply knock that Pokemon out. Golbat's out next. Obviously, Wing Attack is the play. He confuses us, but Wing Attack again is enough to knock that Pokemon out. That brings out Kadabra, where I think we just go for Earthquake. He uses Future Sight, and we are hitting ourselves in confusion, but we do finally snap out and knock that Pokemon out. We get hit by Future Sight now, but Magneton has no chance to do anything about it, and the Haunter also gets completely destroyed. So the rival, Game Freak, never had a chance against this Gligar once they finally gave it Earthquake. It's far too powerful for that fight. So now we just need to grab some full restores. And honestly, we just don't know how many attempts this is going to take. So I'm just going to get as many full restores as I can and then get into the league. Let's see how this goes. Up first, we've got Willy Boy. He's coming out with his Xatu, obviously a flying type, so I'm going to go Wing Attack here. This looks to be a 2-hit KO. We get confused and then hit by Psychic, but we knock it out on the next turn, so that's perfectly fine. Jinx comes out next. I try to go for Earthquake. We hit ourselves, and then the Ice Punch one-shots me. So let's just try this again. This time, no confusion from the Xatu, so we just knock it out in 2 hits. Now Earthquake on Jinx is an easy 1-hit KO. Slowbro comes out next, but does not know any water-type moves. He's just going for Curse at this point. And while he's cursing at our Gligar and then gets a critical hit Psychic, we do manage to take that Pokemon down. That brings out the second Xatu, and we would have needed a critical hit to one-shot there. Unfortunately, it just wasn't enough. So we have found the next spot where this run gets kind of inconsistent, mainly due to the curse from the Slowbro here. Still, this time with no critical hit, we do manage to knock that Pokemon out. The second to last Pokemon, Xatu, comes out. We survive the Psychic only to be quick attacked, and that knocks us out on this attempt. I think we have to get a critical hit somewhere in here against one of these Xatus or that Slowbro in order to be able to get the victory. This time Slowbro went for Amnesia for some reason, and that allows us to get through it on green health. So now as the second Xatu comes out, it's not going to knock us out with Psychic. He maxed potions, but that really doesn't matter. We get a crit after that, but we're just going to knock him out the next turn either way. And then the final Exeggutor is not a one-hitter with our Wing Attack, so we actually go down, having it all the way down to 21 HP remaining. So I'm going to change strategies slightly here. I'm going to add on the King's Rock. This item does not work with Earthquake, but it does work with Wing Attack, giving us the chance to get a flinch, and that could change this battle pretty significantly. So this time we actually managed to flinch the first Xatu. We can still easily get through Jinx onto the Slowbro, where once again it goes Amnesia in this one, giving us a pretty easy victory overall. So we get to the second Xatu still on full health. It goes for Psychic, but it doesn't do that much as we simply destroy that Pokemon. And now Exeggutor, we get a nice strong hit and it goes Leech Seed because it wasn't going to knock us out on that turn. So we just needed to buy one turn in that fight by using the King's Rock and getting a single flinch. This is the only case that I think I've seen this entire run where we're kind of like, oh yeah, maybe we should have learned Sand Attack earlier in the challenge just because of the fact that it would have given us yet another way to win that fight. Still, with that done, we're ready to get into Koga's fight. Let's see how this one goes. Let's see if it's more consistent than Willy Boy. He leads off, of course, with the Ariados. We can just go Wing Attack right here and get the easy KO. Fortress is out next, and everything is at best neutrally effective here. So I'm just going to go Earthquake. It looks like this is a 3-hit KO on Fortress. He goes Swift though, and that just allows me to knock him out the next turn. Crobat is out next, and we just have to go for Wing Attack here, and this appears to be a 3-hitter. He misses Toxic once, and then we get a nice crit there. He Wing Attacks us, and then we get Toxic after we miss one turn there. Still, I think we've got this. Wing Attack destroys the Venomoth, and Muck, we just go Earthquake, and that is a 1-hit KO. So we beat Koga on the first attempt, after a little bit of struggles on Willy Boy. And now it's time for Bruno. So Bruno, attempt number 1, he's going to lead off with Hitmontop. We're just going to wing attack here after a quick attack. We don't quite get the one-hit KO though, it's just barely surviving. That brings out Hitmonchan, which we do one-hit, and Hitmonlee also is a one-hit KO with this Pokemon. Onix is out next, and we have Stab Earthquake. It just misses the range to get the KO, but again, we don't really care about Rock Slide. It's not going to do that much to us. We knock it out to get to level 50 as Machamp comes out. Wing Attack appears to be a 2-hit KO, but yet again, Rock Slide doesn't do that much, and after he max potions, we just get the guaranteed victory against Bruno on the first attempt. So Bruno's back to looking like Gen 1 Bruno here when we have this Earthquake Gligar, even on minimum battles. So now it's time for Karen. I think we have everything we need for this fight, but let's just see how it actually goes. Karen, attempt number 1 on the Umbreon. I think we have to go for the Earthquake. It looks like it does slightly less than half. We actually do get the 2-hit KO, but we got Sand Attack, which could be an issue. Wing Attack now is a 2-hit KO on the Murkrow, but we land both hits. That brings out Vileplume next, where we have to go Wing Attack. It's a 2-hit KO. We get the flinch the first time, and then it misses Stun Spore after we missed, so we get through just fine right there. Houndoom is out next. We miss the Earthquake and take a big Flamethrower, and then miss again. So it's just the accuracy drop that did us in there. I think we have a chance of getting through this one, especially if we get the Sand Attack miss. Next attempt, we get the Sand Attack miss right on time, but we don't get the 2-hit KO range. It's a 3-hit KO this time on that Umbreon. Still, Feint Attack didn't do that much, so we're going to knock out these first 2 Pokemon nice and easy. That brings out Gengar, where we'll just go for the Earthquake and destroy it. Houndoom comes out next. We're faster. Earthquake gets the 1-hit KO. We get to level 51 as Vileplume comes out. We just go for Wing Attack. Sure, it can go for Stun Spore, but I don't think it has anything that can one-shot us here. It is going for Petal Dance, but we managed to move, and the second attempt, we managed to beat Karen. So up to this point, on minimum battles, we've only had a few fights that were truly, difficult. Obviously, Price was tough. We had a little bit of difficulty with Claire, and then we had struggles on Will. But now I think we're actually going to take on the single toughest fight in the entire game, because we have to get through Lance. And the fact that he is using all flying types completely nullifies our Earthquake Gligar, so this one could be tough. Still, we won't know till we try, so let's get into this. I'm going to lead off with Wing Attack on the Gyarados. We could get a flinch here, but this Pokemon looks like it's going to be a 3-hit KO. He Rain Dances. That's basically fine with me. Out next, though, we have the Dragonite that knows Blizzard. Wing Attack only does so much, and then Blizzard completely destroys us. Here, it's looking like it might even be a 4-hit KO on the Dragonite, so it's hard to see us getting through unless they get crazy bad Blizzard luck. And I accidentally forgot to save after fighting Karen, so I had to refight her, but it was a very easy next attempt victory. So we can just heal up here, and we're ready to make our way back to Lance. But here we really have to think if there's anything that we can possibly do to get through this one. This is a spot where you really would want something like Hidden Power Ice to be able to progress in the game, since it would give you a 4-time super effective move against those Dragonites. I don't expect Fury Cutter to be able to build up enough to actually be a threat to them, and it's just hard to see what else could actually help us here. Outside of that, we're looking for some crazy good flinch luck or miss luck in order to get through this Pokemon. I just don't remember if the second Dragonite also has Blizzard, so I'm going to reset a few times here just to see, but assuming that it does, which I believe it does, we're probably at the end of the line here. The other thing, of course, is to go for Slash and to hope for some critical hits. We get a nice critical hit there, but Blizzard hits us the next turn, and there was just nothing we could do. So that makes me just wonder if it would be possible to get through here with Hidden Power Ice. So I'm simply going to take out Iron Tail and replace it with Hidden Power, and I have changed my DVs just slightly. so that I would have the Ice type 70 base power hidden power just to see what this does to our range here against Lancey Boy. Of course, against the Gyarados, there's no change. We're just going wing attack the whole way. It's a 3-hit KO to take down. But now let's see what the hidden power does against this Dragonite. It is a 2-hit KO. So even with the best possible hidden power here, we're still looking at a 2-hit KO in order to actually knock this Pokemon out. And that basically tells us all that we need to know here. Like, yes, a critical hit would get the job done, but it's not likely that that's actually going to come in for all 3 Dragonites. So I think we just have to call it here that we're not getting through this on minimum battles. But there is one last thing that I can try here, but it's gonna require at least 1 rare candy. You see, when we level up to level 52, we get to learn our final move, which is Guillotine. Guillotine is a 1-hit KO move, and I'm just gonna learn it over Slash, since Slash, technically we could just get a better normal type move than that. And what I'm really interested to see is, does Guillotine create the possibility of being able to one-shot against those Dragonites? So first up, the Gyarados, we're just going to stick with the same strategy that we've used so far, just wing attacking 3 times. We get a nice flinch there. But now on the first Dragonite, we're at a higher level. So if we can manage to land Guillotine, that is a 1-hit KO. Now we get to the second Dragonite, which does not know Blizzard. Still, Guillotine might be the best play here, and we do manage to knock that Pokemon out. That brings out Aerodactyl. Again, we don't have anything good, so Guillotine. Now for Charizard, I'm just going to go into the wing attacks. It looks like this is a 3-hit KO against this Pokemon. This is the only Pokemon that uses like a strong special move here. That brings us to level 53 as we get to the final Dragonite. And of course, it just outrages to knock us out. But this might actually be possible now that we're at level 52. Still, we're only talking about a 30% chance to land Guillotine each time. So we're going to need to get a lot of luck to actually land the Guillotines that we need here. It's just that this fight has gone from completely impossible to just really, really improbable. So honestly, we might want to Guillotine on the first 2 Pokemon, given that they're using super effective moves against us. And I'm just going to reset for that luck. It's about a 9% chance that we're able to actually Guillotine both of these Pokemon. Though it's slightly better because Gyarados does like to use Rain Dance turn 1, effectively giving us 1 more turn to try to get the hit. This time we get the luck to 1-hit KO the first 2 Pokemon. The second Dragonite is actually not nearly as scary. Like, it goes Hyper Beam, but that's not really that strong of a move against us. But now, once again, I think we have to Guillotine on the Aerodactyl, given the fact that we don't have any decent moves here. And unfortunately, we missed too many times, so we don't have any Guillotines left for the last couple of Pokemon. And that's probably the end of the run right there. Now, I decided to just try Iron Tail against the Aerodactyl, and we do manage to get the KO there. So that brings us back to Charizard. Flamethrower does massive damage, but then we land the Guillotine. So we're back to the final Dragonite. We're at a higher level. We missed the Guillotine though, and we still had 1 PP left, but it wasn't enough. We got knocked out by the Outrage. Still, there is a chance to get through this one now. I feel very confident that if we just manage to get the right luck to stack up, this is a winnable fight. Of course, we would love something like X accuracy here in order to make this much easier, but eventually it should go. Attempt 99, we are back to the Dragonite. It safeguards, but now we do land the Guillotine, so it took nearly 100 attempts on Lance, but we did finally manage to get the luck to get this to go. And it kind of makes sense when you're trying to land 4 Guillotines. Of course, ignoring like the first Gyarados can go Rain Dance and give you an extra turn. And Charizard, technically, when you're on this amount of HP, you could get hit once and then hit it the next turn, or the final Dragonite could hit you once and you could hit it the next turn, or you could get the safeguard like we just did. But in general, if you were just going for 4 Guillotines in a row, we're talking about like a 0.81% chance of actually getting that to work. So the actual odds of getting through this are about 1%, or just slightly less than 1%. And given that it took 100 resets, it makes sense. Still, we did manage to find a way to beat the game on minimum battles with Earthquake Gligar. It requires at least 1 rare candy on Lance, and even then it's not pretty. You definitely shouldn't do this. You should just go grind more levels. But the reason that I wanted to do that is to see how we do against the final boss, which is red, because for all I know, that is the only place where we actually run into a major wall because we couldn't use Earthquake. We could get to the end of the game and find that, in fact, we can find a way to win. Probably still will need the guillotine for red himself. I'm especially looking at that Charizard. I'm not sure if we can get to a high enough level to actually use guillotine on Charizard, so it might not work out, but we're gonna have to test it and see. But now with the league done, it's time to actually test this one out against Kanto. I expect most of Kanto to be our victory lap, with really just a couple of possible exceptions, but it's going to be kind of interesting to see how this actually works out. Now, before I go, of course, I'm going to make sure to get all of the rare candies and items that I might need, which is why I'm actually going to use Gyarados here in order to knock out everything inside of the Sprout Tower. I'm just doing this for simplicity, of course, because later on having Flash will just help me get through some sections a little bit easier. Now, for a lot of the post game, I will just be using speed up since we've already seen how we did in the main game, and because we know that a lot of these trainers are just really easy KOs at this point in the game. So let's just get straight to Lieutenant Surge here in Vermilion and see how he actually goes, given of course that we have the ground typing so we don't have to worry about his electric type moves. So Surgy Boy, attempt number 1. He of course is going to lead off with his Raichu, and I'm just going to go straight for Earthquake. Quick Attack does basically nothing and he gets one shot. We get to level 54 as the first Electrode comes out and also gets completely destroyed. Electrode number 2 comes out, another easy victory right there. Electabuzz really can do nothing other than Quick Attack and just gets destroyed. And that brings out the final Magneton 4 times weak to Earthquake, so it never stood a chance there. We get the easy victory. So just like that, our first Kanto gym leader is easily defeated and we're able to move on in this one. We're going to have one less rare candy when we get to red because of the fact that we used it against Lance earlier on in this challenge. So that's going to affect our final level a little bit in this one as we go through, but I don't think it will affect anything until red. There's not really a spot I think we'll have to use rare candies before that, but who knows, maybe blue poses a challenge, especially because of the fact that he has that Gyarados, and we saw how tough that Pokemon was on Lance's team, and we might actually struggle there, but we're just going to put blue off obviously until the very end of this section. So for now, let's come and fight against Sabrina instead and see how her Pokemon do against our powerful Earthquake. We might just be looking at some one-hit KOs here. She leads off with Espeon, I go for Earthquake, and sure enough, one hit is enough. It was a crit, mind you, but still it worked out. Earthquake on the Mr. Mime also destroys it. That brings out Alakazam, and we outspeed an Earthquake, getting the one-hit KO there as we get to level 55. Stab Earthquake being effectively 150 base power is pretty darn good here, and it means that a trainer with frail Pokemon like Sabrina really just never stood a chance against our Earthquake Gligar. Now I'm going to come straight to Erica because while on the one hand her moves will be neutrally effective against us, we've got Stab Wing Attack, which should do pretty decent damage here, and assuming that is the case, we should have a decent chance of getting through this fight. Now I've got the King's Rock on right now, but I think I'm generally just going to run with leftovers from this point onward, though we may change it up if we run into a really tough situation. For now though, we'll just simply make our way into Erica with this setup, and let's just see if Wing Attack just one-shots everything. So Erica attempt number 1, of course she leads off with the Tangela. Wing Attack is a one-hitter right there. I think that basically is the end of this one. Jumpluff comes out next and gets destroyed. That brings out Blossom, who never even gets a chance to do anything. And finally, we've got the Victory Bell, which simply goes down. So Erica never stood a chance. We get the Rainbow Badge and we get to move on in this one. Honestly, if any gym leader is going to give us any sort of issue outside of blue, I think it's got to be Misty, just because of the fact that we're actually weak against water type moves, and ice with, for example, her Lapras could actually be really strong here. But if we're able to just one-shot those Pokemon, obviously it will make no difference. So we'll just have to test it out when we actually get there. For now though, we've got to complete this whole little section of getting the machine part, so let's just get this done. And honestly, I'll probably put Misty off to be our second to last gym leader here, just because of the fact that she could pose some mediocre challenge. Still, I will make the trip over to break up Misty's Jade just because of the fact that we can get maybe one extra level here. Obviously, none of the trainers along this section pose any real difficulty to us given that we're 20 plus levels higher. But with the machine part in tow, I'm simply going to go and deliver it and then skip Misty for now. I'm going to go straight to Brocky Boy, where Earthquake with Stab should be enough. We're only neutrally affected by his rock type moves and immune to ground. So honestly, it's just the Amistar and Kabutops with Surf that could actually pose a difficulty for us, but it might not matter because we might just one-shot them with the Earthquake anyway. But one other thing that I will do in this one while I'm still thinking about it is I'm going to get access to Curse, because this could be a situation where it's actually useful at a certain point in the run, since it does give us a way to both boost our attack and our defense, and Quick Claw strats could come in, something like that. I could see it honestly being a red strat to go for Curse in that one in order to find a way through, so we're gonna just have that in our pocket as a strategy in case we absolutely need it. So with that, I think we're ready to get into Brock's gym, where Lightyear's boy shouldn't pose any issue whatsoever to us, and we can get straight to the gym leader himself at level 58. So Brock, attempt number 1, he leads off with Graveler, of course. We go Earthquake, getting the one-hit KO on that Pokemon. Amistar comes out next, we go Earthquake and one-shot, so that was no issue whatsoever. Kabutops comes out, but it still cannot stand up to even a single hit from us. Onix, Earthquake, one-shot, and that should mean that Rhyhorn goes down nice and easy, meaning Brock is just a bunch of one-hit KOs. He never stood a chance, thanks to Earthquake on Gligar. I think without Earthquake, our best play there would be like Iron Tail, and that's probably not getting the one-hitters, at least not on everything. So I think that this Earthquake is making a massive difference for this run. And with that done, I think we're ready to get down to Blaney Boy and Janine, two more trainers that should be incredibly easy. We'll lead off with Blaine just because he's on the way, but we're talking about either 2 or 4 times effectiveness with Earthquake depending on the Pokemon, so this should be a really easy fight. Blue is going to run away and try to strategize in his gym because he knows that we're coming for him, and he knows that we could even be cursing at him at that point, and he might not stand a chance, but he's got to come up with a strategy to at least try to stand up to us while we come here and beat up on Blaney Boy. So Blaine, supposedly a genius, just sends out his Magcargo and gets destroyed, and he's now going to send out Magmar to get more of the same Earthquake action, and that brings out Rapidash, who's just going to serve to give us a level up here. We're going to knock it out in a single hit, getting the level 59 now as Blaney Boy goes down. And with that, we'll take a quick little detour over to Janine, who just is a little wannabe Koga. Given that we've already beaten Koga, I see no reason why we would struggle here, especially because she's just like rocking a couple Weezings that we don't really care about. Obviously, Crobat's the only Pokemon that's actually scary here. Everything else should be a one-hitter, but let's see how this actually goes. So Crobat comes out first. I'm going for Wing Attack, and sure enough, we do not get the one-hit KO there. It's a two-hitter to knock that Pokemon out, but now she sends out the Weezing. Earthquake will be a one-shot thanks to super effectiveness. Ariados comes out. We can go to Wing Attack, which is super effective, guaranteeing the one-hit KO there. Venomoth gets completely destroyed as well, and of course, the final Weezing, just Earthquake, and she never had a chance. I mean, she kind of did because she survived at least one hit. In that sense, she's better than Brock this time, but Janine still proves to be basically a non-factor in these runs. So that brings us now to Blue, the second to last trainer in the game, and I think we've got enough moves here, but if we really struggle, we could think about adding on that Curse. That's basically my strategy. Of course, we can go Guillotine strats as well, but let's just see how this actually goes. So Blue attempt number 1, he leads off, of course, with Pidgeot. The only play here is Wing Attack, which looks to be a 3-hit KO. Now, we do have the leftovers, so we're healing a little bit, but still, that was not a super easy KO. That brings out the Gyarados, against whom we really have nothing. I think we have to go for Guillotine here. We do get the one-hit KO on the second turn against the Gyarados after it set up Rain Dance, so we do knock it out and get to level 60. That brings out Alakazam, where we're going to go for Earthquake. Obviously, that just one-shots that Pokemon. Rhydon is going to get the same action, Earthquake, but it is a 2-hitter here. Now, Fury Attack really does nothing though, so we get the free KO on that Pokemon. That brings out Exeggutor, against whom we're definitely going for the wing attack. This is going to be a 2-hitter as it leech seeds us, but we knock it out very, very easily after that. Arcanine is the final Pokemon, Earthquake, and it is a 1-hitter, getting us to level 61 as we just completely destroy Blue. So it's nice to see that we got through the second to last trainer with basically no issues. Now we only have one trainer left in front of us, and obviously it's, I would argue, the biggest power spike possibly in the history of the Pokemon franchise, where you go from like the last gym leader to the, not really secret, but final boss of the game. And it seems like, suddenly everything is, level 70 plus and you're just getting wrecked. We're going to have to hope that this is going to be enough to get through here. That being said, we do have a lot of tools at our disposal. Fury Cutter is still available to us. Curse is a strategy. We could try King's Rock if other things aren't working. We still have things like Return or Sludge Bomb or Sandstorm, Detect, Rest, all kinds of strategies. So we just have to play around a little bit here to see what works. But I'm going to go in initially as I am. And it's at this point that I realized that I never fought Misty. So I'm going to go back and take her on really quickly. This should be super easy. If we got through Blue that easily, I see no reason Misty will be a challenge, but let's just find out. So Misty attempt number 1, she leads off with the Golduck. I'm just going Earthquake here. That's an easy 1-hit KO. She sends out Quagsire next. I'm just going to stick with the Earthquake, and we do get the 1-hitter there as well. Lapras, we could try Iron Tail. Blizzard does massive damage. It actually 1-hit KOs me. For some reason, I thought Iron Tail would be super effective there against an Ice type. Clearly I was misremembering my type chart there. So let's try this one again. Still, Earthquake should do more than enough damage, I think, to get us through this. So we Earthquake against the Golduck, getting the 1-hit KO. Quagsire's out next. Earthquake does get the 1-hit KO there. Lapras now, I'm going Earthquake, and this one is not a 1-hitter, and Blizzard takes us to 1 HP and then freezes us. Are you kidding me? Oh, Misty, actually a beast against our Gligar. I was clearly right to put this fight off till the very end. Here, once again, we one-shot the Golduck. Quagsire comes out and survives on 3 HP, allowing it to set up Rain Dance, and we might actually have a problem on our hands. So I think against Lapras, to avoid the Blizzard, we have to go Guillotine here and hope that we actually hit. For the 3rd time in a row, it knocks me out. So I think this whole run comes down to landing Guillotine on Lapras, which we do this time, allowing us to knock out that Lapras. And now the final Starmie is not that bulky, so it just gets one shot with an Earthquake. Still, that shows that Guillotine is actually still necessary on this one. Red has a Blastoise that could be using Blizzard on us as well, so we're really gonna have some serious troubles here in this last fight. I think we are pretty fast. That's the one thing we've got going for us, but if we go for curse strats, obviously we're going to lose that speed, and that could be a major issue as we try to take on Red. So, and as previously mentioned, we're down 1 rare candy here, so we're getting to level 70 with this Pokemon after we drop all of the rare candies. And I'm not sure if that's gonna be enough or not to actually be able to defeat Red. I think our speed is the deciding factor though, because at the end of the day, if we can outspeed against the key threats, we're talking the Charizard and the Blastoise especially, then against those Pokemon, we may just be able to go for the Guillotine strat at the end of the day to try to get the victory on minimum battles. This is going to take an awful lot of testing though, so I don't think I'm going to mess around. I'm going to go for the rare candies after just trying him once to see if this is enough. So up against his Pikachu, of course, we actually have nothing to worry about. Thunderbolt and Thunder can't affect us, so he's only going Quick Attack and Charm here. He does Charm turn 1 though, and that actually has the effect of even making it so that we don't one-shot with Earthquake. That could be a serious issue. Now, I don't think it's guaranteed that he uses Charm against us. He's probably going to mix up between Charm and Quick Attack. Still, if we get Charmed, that could be a major issue here. We are currently 7 points in speed slower than this Pokemon, so with the rare candies, we should be able to outspeed. So after that, we get the Blastoise, and I think the only possible strategy here is Guillotine, because Blizzard is going to be a 1-hit KO. So with that knowledge, I'm now going to slam the rare candies and let's see how this goes once we level up. So back in the fight against Red at level 70, after slamming all the rare candies, we are now faster than the Pikachu, and Earthquake gets the easy one-hit KO. Now against Blastoise, I'm just going to test to see what the range is with Earthquake one time. I don't expect it to get a one-hit KO here, but maybe it's a two-hitter and we just have to dodge one Blizzard. And if so, that could be the strategy. And here Earthquake does not even do nearly half. This looks like at best a 3-hit KO range, possibly a 4-hitter. But here is where I forgot that this is Gen 2 and 1-hit KO moves only work if you're at a higher level than your opponent. And that effectively means that Guillotine has no value on our moveset. We have to try something else. Now, one potential strategy would be to try to use Fury Cutter, hoping that we can build it up enough that it actually does decent damage to the Blastoise. And that's the first thing that I'm going to try over Guillotine here, just to see maybe this strategy works. The logic here is pretty simple. Pikachu can basically do nothing against us, allowing us to pretty easily build up the Fury Cutter's power. This time he's only going quick attack on us, which is really nice, and then he full restores, so it's going to guarantee that we get a full power Fury Cutter as long as we don't get any misses. Now the Blastoise comes out, let's see what Fury Cutter does, and it does about half. Meaning a critical hit might just get us the one-hitter there at that point, but anything less will not get the job done. Still, it is a better chance than what we were dealing with before, so I think this could be the strategy to try a few times here to see if we can actually get it to go. Certainly, if we can get a Blizzard miss, that will also be enough to guarantee that we get through with this strategy. However, on the flip side, we can also get charmed by the Pikachu, which means that this time the critical hit did not one-shot, and because I tried to use Earthquake after that, I actually didn't manage to get through. Now, once again, it's not guaranteed that Pikachu ever goes for Charm here, but that makes me think that Curse might be the strategy to combine with this. I'm going to forget Iron Tail. I don't think it has any real value in this fight, being inaccurate and all, so let's just see if that gives us some extra advantage by perhaps setting up a couple curses first against the Pikachu. We just want to keep more than 146 speed, but even one curse already has us being outsped here, and at that point we really just have nothing else to do but just go all in on curse and hope for the Blizzard miss when we need it. Of course, with all the curses set up, now we just want the 30% chance for a miss, and then we will guaranteed one shot here with Earthquake. That brings out Espeon, who can do a lot of things, but Reflect shouldn't really matter when we've got all the curses set up. Snorlax is out next. We're just going to go for the Earthquake on this Pokemon as well. It survives thanks to the Reflect and Body Slams, but we still knock it out the next turn. Charizard is out. We're going to go for the Wing Attack after taking a massive Flamethrower, and this yet again is a 2-hit KO due to the Reflect. That is the only reason we lost there, I think, is because Reflect was in play. So this might actually be the best strategy for this Pokemon. It's just a very all or nothing strategy because of the fact that we have to dodge the Blizzard. And even if we used up all the Blizzards, it still has Surf, which will do massive damage here. So I think this is just a situation where we're required to try to get that level of luck to get that 30% chance for the miss. On the 13th attempt, we actually managed to get through Blastoise again, and against Espeon, if it does go for the Reflect, we might want to kind of take our time here, giving more turns for Reflect to wear off. So I'm actually going to go for the Fury Cutter here. Psychic does massive damage to us though, so we go down pretty darn easily there, just because our special defense isn't that good, and it's not high enough to actually get the badge boost in special defense. You'll notice that the special defense goes down when I come into battle. That's because outside of battle, my overlay automatically calculates in a badge boost, but it's not actually applied unless we have like over 200 special defense. So at this point, we're actually only rocking 140 special defense in this fight. So what we probably need to do is just knock out that Espeon as quickly as possible and then try a slow stally strategy against the Snorlax, hoping to allow Reflect to wear off before we get to the next Pokemon. Next attempt, we once again get through Blastoise though, so I'm just going to go with that. Espeon will set up Reflect, it seems 100% of the time. That's perfectly fine with me though. Now I'm going to go for the Fury Cutter strat on the Snorlax here. basically just buying turns until the reflect wears off. That does open us up to paralysis, but Snorlax is likely to rest at some point here, and that allows us to get the easy one-hit KO as Charizard comes out. Now we just have to move. He hits Flamethrower, of course. We hit Wing Attack, and we do get the one-hit KO this time. That brings out the Venusaur. It takes in Sunlight. We hit the Wing Attack, and it goes down. And just like that, Red is defeated. It takes Curse strats in the end, plus a little bit of luck. You have to get that Blizzard Miss. Once you do, it's a matter of stalling out a few turns so that you get rid of that Reflect, and then you can just one-hit KO everything. So it's very interesting to see that Gligar's only serious, massive wall in the entire run was Lance. And perhaps to a lesser degree Price, but Price will give you free wins eventually. Lance is the one where you have to go the guillotine strat in order to get it to go. Red, on the other hand, is actually far more consistent to get through in this one. So the Kanto section took less than an hour, and that included me doing a lot of running around picking up items and not like efficiently trying to get through that section. I was trying to get everything that I could possibly need to be ready for Red. It didn't turn out to be as difficult as I had imagined. Anyway, that's really interesting to see. Earthquake Gligar with Stab Earthquake with Stab Wing Attack is actually a really legit Pokemon, and it makes me nervous for how our normal Gligar is gonna do in the Minimum Battles series now that I've seen what these ranges kind of look like, because Earthquake and Wing Attack were doing a lot of the heavy lifting in that run. Iron Tail, remember, was only there for the Aerodactyl. That was it, and even when I put on the Fury Cutter, it didn't end up even being a strat. So basically this was the Earthquake Wing Attack run, and I think it shows how good Gligar could have been that it beat the entire game on Minimum Battles. Anyway, that does it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to be coming back with another Minimum Battles series next week, but then we will be following that one up with the Lucky Egg Chansey that I did as a live stream for the channel members, but it will be edited for a video for all of you guys to watch. Very interesting to see the fastest possible level up rate in the entire game and what that means for Chansey in the end. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But as usual, I appreciate you guys for hanging out with me until the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed this one too. If you'd like to support, consider joining the channel membership down below or watching one more video that I will link here at the end. Anyway, that's all I got for you. See you in the next one. Later.